Hey guys, and welcome to Anchor to Truth. Today we are diving into chapter 45 in the book of Jubilees. So let's get started.
All right, guys, let's do it. Let's start in verse 1. And Israel went into the country of Egypt, into the land of Goshen, on the new moon of the 4th month, in the 2nd year of the 3rd week of the 45th Jubilee. And Joseph went to meet his father Jacob to the land of Goshen, and he fell on his father's neck and wept. And Israel said unto Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen thee. Now may the Yahuwah, Elohim of Israel, be blessed, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, who hath not withheld his mercy and his grace from his servant Jacob. It is enough for me that I have seen thy face whilst I am alive, or whilst I am yet alive. Yea, true is the vision which I saw at Bethel. Blessed be the Yahuwah, my Elohim, forever and ever, and blessed be his name.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
some good stuff there.
Yeah, we do. How about this? Like, this is one of those things, for those that question the book of Jubilees, this just blows my mind, right? Like, if you're trying to fake a document, one thing you don't want to do is be specific. If you're trying to fake a document, you want to be as vague as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want there to be any way that you're going to get found out that you have a fake document. On the new moon of the 4th month in the 2nd year of the 3rd week of the 45th Jubilee. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, guys. Like, that's uber specific, right? And I'd be willing to bet that we could probably track back if we have some documents that we could find out about, ancient Egyptian documents, but potentially, I don't know if it could be found. I know Library of Alexandria has been burned down, so I don't know if anything like that could be available or not, but I would be willing to bet that you could reference this in any of those documents that you find, So anyway, I just thought that was a neat point to bring up. You don't get specific if you're trying to fake a document.
Yeah, and we know that there was a historian who was trying to do like a history of the world and get all the dates and facts of like start to finish, and he actually used Jubilees as one of his main source documents to get all the chronology correct and to go through of like the history of humanity, not just let's get some Bible stories or let's learn about Moses. It was like, hey, I'm trying to learn who was where and what empires were in charge, and what was the different people groups and the nomads and all that. And Jubilees was a huge resource for him because it was so accurate and on the spot. And those history books are not questioned at all, but the details from those history books came out of Jubilees. So you question the source document, but not the book itself. So it's interesting to see how that kind of played out when secular sources are like, oh yeah, this book is great. It refers Jubilees, and then the people in the faith are like, oh no, absolutely not.
Right. Like what's the guy's name? Josephus, right? And his recordings of history and that sort of thing. You can tell that there's a lean towards certain things, right? So it's easy to spot the stuff, but the stuff that they gets uber specific on, it's something that you have the ability to compare to and look and see, okay, is this nonsense or is it is this an actual recording of what was going on there? So it's easy to tell the more details you have, so if they were faking the funk, this ain't the way to do it.
Right.
No, the funk was real. Remember we talked
Now,
about flies.
I'll say now on the flip side, if your kid comes to you and they give you the most detailed story about what happened or something, like, no, I swear it was a green dragon that jumped out in front of me, and that's why I wrecked the car, Dad. I swear.
And he had a mustache.
And he had a mustache. and I'm not positive, but I think Elvis was with him at the same time. Yeah.
Good stuff. No biggie. You know what? I'm glad you asked, though, because that's, we pause for a minute, guys. If you see the weird stain on my hand, I was messing around with a pine tree in the backyard earlier, and, that's almost impossible to get off. So it's going to be there until I screw up. So anyway, life, right?
Yep. Speaking of, when we get to this moment in verse 2 where it says that Joseph went and met his father. So obviously this is finally the reunification after all these years, after all this time, after all the drama and the dreams and the visions and all that. You finally get that reunification, and it's that same verbiage being used that he fell on his neck. So that happened once prior. And now, so Joseph's a little bit emotional. I'm not going to say he's, that's in a bad quality, but he's definitely, hey, I'm in my feels, and now Dad's here. I'm really in my feels. Like, come on over, give me a sloppy wet kiss almost. But they go they go and they embrace, they get back together, and it says, and he wept. So again, it was that he had the moment with the brothers, which I think he needed that restitution or resolution with them before seeing Dad. And I think it was, hey, we squashed all the beef. We've gotten rid of all the drama. We got rid of all the you did, I did, we did, who said, she said, I said, I was in a hole, you weren't, all that's kind of over. So now it's just, okay, the two families are coming back together. And it starts off with an Israel went. So, Jacob's now representing Israel again, as it's Israel, the whole nation's going into Goshen. And so Jacob and Joseph, he didn't get that individual treatment again. The specific human here was emotional. These two were very happy to see each other and get reunited after all these years.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Jonathan, because I feel like Jacob and Joseph both deserve to have this moment to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
This didn't need to be the whole brothers and him wailing over in the other room and all of Egypt hearing him. It didn't need, like, I agree with you. I think this needed to be, hey, whatever was between him and his brothers needed to be resolved, needed to be a healing, needed to be some understanding or whatever that is. And then I think they both absolutely deserve to say, you know what? I need this time for me and Dad. And Dad's in his heart's going, I need this time for me and Joseph. So I'm glad it worked out that way for him.
Well, this is not only a moment for them. Like this is a covenant moment happening here. I know the covenant was already made. The covenant has already been shown. It's all, the promise has been shown. All the visions and stuff. We read it in verse 4. I'm sure we're going to discuss it here in just a minute. Everything's coming to fruition. Dad can see it. Son can see it. They see how their part is being played out and what the Most High has shown them. And so this is this is not just a father-son moment. This is the Most High has brought to fruition what his promise was. This is, we've done well. We've done what we were supposed to do.
Yep.
I kind of feel like Jacob is not really thought that he was up to snuff, a lot of the time, because so much time went by. He thought his son was dead. He thought his other son was dead. Like, how is this promise going to get fulfilled? And now he's seeing this. So it's a huge moment. I'm sure there's lots of praise and worship going on during this time frame too. All the between the words that happened. So yeah, I see a lot of covenant stuff going on here, and I think that it had to be just them, not just for their family moment, not just for their, hey, we did it, hey, we're here, we're together, we're back again, but for them to spend time with the Most High as well. Like, again, just reading between the lines, speculating here, but that's kind of what I see in this moment.
Yep.
Yeah. It does say that they bless him, right?
Yep.
So
yeah, no, in verse 3, it's they meet each other. It's like, we don't know what the time lapse is and how long this meet and greet situation was, but it's like, first words that come out of his mouth, now let me die. He's like, I'm good. I don't want to risk any more negativity in life. Let's end on a high note. And it's, I'm saying that tongue in cheek a little bit, but it is interesting that Jacob wasn't like, hey, let's see how long I can, squeeze the scenario out. Let's see if I can set everybody up, make sure that we're fully solidified and make sure Goshen actually is good. He was like, hey, Joseph, you're good and taking care of business. We met. I saw your face. All right, I can die now. I'm good. And we talked about Kyle earlier. You did that, deep exhale. He's good. Like, you literally, you're. I don't know. I've never been in that place in my life where I was like, everything's accomplished. There's nothing else on the list. I'm ready to go. I did everything I set out to do. I've met all the promises, saw all the visions. Everything happened. I'm good now. And then in 4, it goes back and it says, it is enough for me. And that was that one phrase that we kind of really dug into a chapter or 2 back, where when Jacob was saying, hey, as long as I can see if he's alive, then that's enough for me. I'm not worried about the stuff. I'm not worried about the chariots. I'm not worried about all our possessions. It's just enough that he's alive. So then he's now reiterating that, but like live and in color. You know, he's like, hey, I'm here, and I want you to know that I could die because it's enough that that I saw your face, that you're still here. The family unit wasn't destroyed, that the 12 tribes still exist, that we're going to go forward into the biblical narrative for all eternity. Amen. Let me go now.
Yep.
There you go.
And I thought the way that this was written was interesting. May the Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, the Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, be blessed. I mean, I know they're blessing his name, but I just thought the thrown in there.
Well, maybe they entered Goshen and they were like, hey, you see all these other guys, but we're talking about the Yahuwah. Like, it's just one of these. There's a bunch of them, one of us.
Yeah.
Who knows? It could be a translation thing too, going from one language to another.
Yeah.
Because it almost seems like it should read, and now may the Elohim Yahuwah of Israel. Maybe. I don't know. Guess it really doesn't matter. We know what he's saying.
Yeah. Right.
It's kind of like the Ohio State treatment, the Ohio State. You're like, hey, it's just it's okay. You don't have to make a big deal. We got it. There's only one.
Yeah, that's funny you said that, because Vicky heard one of the football players the other day say, yeah, they always give either they give a high school or college.
Right.
And this guy gave his elementary school. She goes, did you just say an elementary school? I go,
oh, yeah. Yeah, they've got some funny ones out there where they're just making random stuff up. One was like the ninja school of Naruto or something. Like, yeah, they because they can do what they want, and so some people have fun with it.
That's good stuff. I thought this was pretty cool here. They're blessing him. They're blessing Yah, right? And Elohim of Isaac, who hath not withheld his mercy and his grace from his servant Jacob. Okay. So lots of mercy and grace there. So he's seeing the fruition of the promises given, and he's humbling himself here. Right? Lots of mercy, lots of grace being shown from the Most High to allow this to take place.
Yep.
You know?
Well, think about this. Through all, like this, when we go back to the very beginning of this family, they're not the perfect family.
Yeah.
So they're making mistakes along the way. And I think, he's looking back going, and he knows the story of his granddaddy Abraham and of Isaac, and now the story that's being written about him. It's like, we're not a perfect people. Thank you, Abba, for the grace that you have extended on us through all of the dumb, through all the she's my sister, through all the things that we did that was in, us doing our best to live life. Thank you for your mercy and grace.
Well, apparently this is just a giant mistranslation, and whoever the guy who translated this just doesn't understand how to translate words, because there's mercy and grace here, which is prior to Yeshua, and we see those verses that said grace and mercy didn't show up until Yeshua. So I don't know what he's talking about. Do you guys even know what these words are yet? I mean, what does he mean, mercy and grace? Now, obviously, I'm joking. It's riddled with Jubilees and the Old Testament all over the non-canonical books that are missing out of here. Is mercy and grace existed from the beginning, right? God let Adam and Eve not be immediately dead. He took care of Noah and his family. You just see mercy and grace all over the Old Testament, all over these old school pre-Yeshua events. And so, I say that jokingly because there's so many, pastors, and there's so many teachings out there that, mercy and grace came through Yeshua, and you're like, and the law came through Moses. And then they take that as if it's like
two different things.
Yeah. Impossible to exist in and out of it, outside of that scenario. And you're like, well, Yeshua didn't show up till AD 0 or something, right? Like in the middle of 4,000 years later. What did people do for 4,000 years without mercy and grace? If the Father's not extending mercy and grace on a regular basis, we're out of here.
There was only like 15 people that qualified.
I don't even know that many. So it's just funny to see those words play out here, and it's like in their correct context and their correct use. So obviously the author didn't make a mistake. Those words are supposed to be here.
It makes you wonder too, because people say now that we're under grace, they're like, well, we're under grace of Messiah. I'm like, yeah, we are, and we've been under it since the beginning. So what's your point?
Yeah.
Seriously, we've been under it since the beginning. What's your point? This isn't a new thing.
You know
You
what?
know?
That's a great point. We've been under grace and mercy since the very beginning, since before Adam and Eve sinned,
Yeah.
because the Most High knew what was going to happen. Grace abounds.
Yeah.
I know you're going to do it. Okay, you did it.
Here's how we fix it.
Here's,
Yeah,
let's
absolutely.
go from here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff, guys. Good stuff.
All right. I thought I was going to get in trouble for that one.
Absolutely not. And then in verse 4 down here, it says, "True is the vision which I saw at Bethel."
Mhm.
Yeah. How
And
about
again,
that?
and again, blessed be the Yahuwah, my Elohim.
Talk about a giant check mark in your brain. Hit
Right?
check.
You know, he had that big question mark going on, but true is the vision which I saw at Bethel.
Yeah.
And yeah, very good stuff. Very good stuff. Do y'all have any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I did. That one really. That's why I did the page break on 4, because I really thought there was a little bit. I didn't want to go past it and kind of forget it. I wanted us to end right there for that first reading. But I think this is why, with everything happening, Jacob's probably questioning, like, what's going on? If he's seen everything that's happened, or we'll say whatever Abba showed him, we don't know if he saw absolutely everything. But here he is backing up and saying, "It is enough for me that I have seen thy face while I am yet alive. Yea, true." So maybe there was, hey, he's human. Okay, At the end of the day, we're all human. At the end of the day, we're all going to have some doubt. And at the end of the day, what he's saying is this. He says, "It is true. Yea, true is the vision which I saw at Bethel. Blessed be the Yahuwah, my Elohim, forever and ever, and blessed be his name." I mean, to me, this is him going, I really wasn't crazy. I didn't have some bad cat when I ate that cuisine last night, whatever it was. He's like, no, I really did see a vision. This wasn't just me, conjuring something up. And I think this gave him relief knowing, hey, oh God, thank you. I'm still on the right path.
Mhm.
How many times have we been in a situation going like, man, I don't know. You're looking at your situation going, did I do something wrong? Or is this part of the plan? Or and then God, and sometimes the Father's like, just wait, wait, let it walk out, let it take its course, and then all of a sudden you get to see that whole thing. It's almost one of those, thank you, Abba, I didn't miss it. Thank you that you're still here. Thank you for your grace and mercy that I get to live to see today. I get to see my boy Joseph. Thank you.
And we got a whole praise song out of it.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I find this really interesting because I've worked with a lot of folks and done quite a bit of counseling and things like that, and it's really interesting the two sides of remembering something. You've got those that have told a lie so long that they actually believe that they had an experience that was a complete made up fabrication from the get go. They've told a lie so long that they actually believe that they have a false memory of that thing happening. And then the other side of that is something I know that I've personally experienced is when Yah tells us something or shows us something, it's very easy to question that. Did I really see that? Is that what I really saw? Is that you start having doubts of, is that really what that meant? Or did I really hear that? Did I really see that? And that's so strange, that dynamic of how that works, how when it is from him, it tends to be one of those things that gets questioned in your mind, right? Yet people have a tendency to, when it's something that they've made up, when it is a lie, to believe the lie. And it's just a very, very interesting dynamic in that. So I think that's really cool. And that right before in verse 4, it says, yay. Not like yay, but I'm sure on the inside they were going yay, but yes, it truly, the vision truly is, or true is the vision which I saw at Bethel.
There it is.
So yeah, little excitement going on there.
Jacob never really let himself go that much, so he had just been there, yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
All right. And then they bless him. Blessed be the Yahuwah my Elohim forever and ever, and blessed be his name. Amen. All right, we ready to get into 5?
Let's do it.
All righty, here we go.
All right, we get to pick up on the story where now we have everybody. It says in verse 5, and Joseph and his brothers ate bread before their father and drank wine, and Jacob rejoiced with exceeding great joy because he saw Joseph eating with his brothers and drinking before him. And he blessed the Creator of all things who had preserved him and had preserved for him his 12 sons. And Joseph had given his father and to his brothers as a gift the right of dwelling in the land of Goshen and in Ramesses and all the region round about, which he ruled over before Pharaoh. And Israel and his sons dwelt in the land of Goshen, the best part of the land of Egypt. And Israel was 130 years old when he came into Egypt. And Joseph nourished his father and his brethren and also their possessions with bread as much as sufficed them for the 7 years of the famine.
All right. I just got it real quick while I got it pulled up. I just thought this was funny over here in verse 6. It says best part. I guess the the editor or translator is like, I am not writing goodliest again. I'm just not doing it. Goodliest. All right, what y'all got in here?
Yeah, so verse 5, it's starting off right away of, like Joe said, now it's everybody. He had the moment. It's almost like, reminds me of like the prodigal son moment where like the father runs out to him and's like, hey, I'm going to embrace you out in the street. We're not going to wait till you to get through the gate and through the door and you see me drinking coffee with a newspaper. I'm coming to get you. You are the long lost one. Except for the roles are reversed. This is Joseph running out to meet Jacob. And what a sweet moment where Jacob's like, dude, the vision was true. I didn't know, and here you are in the flesh. And then so now he's like, all right, me and Dad had our moment. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna have some fun time with my brothers, kind of like that brotherly love. They're just hanging out. They're eating, they're drinking wine, which wasn't a sin to drink alcoholic drink, but they're drinking some wine, having just a normal, regular people good time. And it says that Jacob rejoiced with exceeding great joy. So Jacob's not even, he's there, he's in the picture, but he's having such a good time watching his kids live life, watching his kids fulfill their ultimate true destiny, remove all the negativity, remove all the crazy. And is it going to come back? Of course. Do anybody ever live a perfect life? No. But for this single solitude moment, he said, hey, look at all 12 of my boys. Some of the mamas have died. The journeys have been tough. We're in a famine. I didn't know if I was going to live. And all 12, 1 through 12, all sitting here together, eating. That makes my heart happy. And I know for us, as men, as women, as older people, younger people, we strive to have those moments, whether it's with our own children or like the spiritual body or our time in the New Jerusalem where we all are going to be gathered together. How good is that just going to be a look at and be like, these are all my people and they're all doing what they're supposed to do and like fulfilling their ultimate roles of life. It just exceeding great joy. That's the only other words to use. And so I think the author, which would be the angel of the presence telling Moses, got those words right.
Yeah, I'm a very visual person, man, and when I see that, it just, I don't know. I can see Jacob just kick back, watching his boys, just full of just love and joy, being at peace, and just feeling whole, feeling completed. Like, okay, it's all been worth it for this moment right here. That's good stuff.
Absolutely. I have a similar story with me and my biological father, and I think it was 2009. My wife had went and searched, sent out letters anywhere we could find, trying to find my biological dad. And when we sent out 2 letters, and they both actually went to the same property, 2 different addresses, went to the same property. Anyway, long story short, at how old would I have been? I would have been 38 years old at the time, I believe. Yeah, 38. And so I haven't seen my dad, or dad. I don't even remember my biological dad. I probably hadn't been around him since the age of 1. So for 37 years of my life, I hadn't seen, heard anything. And so it was crazy because I remember getting a phone call. I come home from work. My wife's on the phone with someone. She goes, "Well, I'm on the phone with your dad." And so it was like one of those, like I was excited, but I was kind of like scared at the same time. I haven't talked, never had a conversation with him. But what was interesting about it and how I can relate to this story a little bit for me was um, my dad has CO, or he had CO. He passed away last year, but he had COPD really bad and just always breathing problems. And so when I got on the phone with him, even my stepmom at the time was like, your dad's in really bad shape. It almost sounded like he was about to die. But the funny part was, or the good part of this was, when he heard my voice, his spirit jumped. And the next thing you know, he went from being like on death's doorstep to where he called me every day for a year. Every day for a whole year, he called me. But I remember seeing life return back to my dad. And not only me, but I have a younger brother that is his dad also. So me and my brother make a trip to go see him right after that, and we get reunited. And then I get 14 years with my dad. Now Joseph gets about 17, I believe, in here in the story. But I remember when it says that, and when we were reading that Jacob's heart basically leaped. He's like, it's just like almost like I think he was ready to check out. I honestly think he was ready, like, hey man, got this famine thing going on. Benjamin's taken. I can't take any more. All of a sudden, you're thinking the very worst of the worst. You're probably still wondering, did I miss God somewhere with this vision? Because I don't see how this is playing out in my favor whatsoever. And all of a sudden, it's like, hey, by the way, and your son Joseph's alive. Can you imagine? At first, I think the reason why he denied is he's like, don't mess with me. don't mess with me. This ain't the time for that. Don't mess with me. No. And here's the movers come. Here's the two guys in a camel or two guys in a car. They're here to move the whole family. And all of a sudden, you see what I think happened is all of a sudden he just got life back into him.
Mm-hmm.
And then this part here makes my heart feel good because it says that when now Jacob, he has that moment with his son Joseph that they deserved. And I believe, and also Kyle, I agree with you that this is a covenant moment. This is a blessing. This is all these things wrapped up into one. And now Jacob, as an old man, gets to see all 12 of his sons together. They're not griping. They're not talking bad about Joseph. They're not, picking on each other. They're all grown men, and they're all sitting down and having a meal together.
Mm-hmm.
And it says that Jacob rejoiced with exceeding great joy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was quite to the point as the way Joseph was wailing all through Egypt at one point, but on the very opposite of that spectrum, I think that his heart was just like, this is the best. Matter of fact, it could have been written in here. I could die today now, God. You could take me home today. Thank you for letting me see all my boys together again.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to share that with y'all. Yeah, a little bit of my past. So
yeah, it was the it was the goodliest moment there for Joseph and Jacob. But what I love to see about Jacob, and he's like Joe was saying, he went through a lot. His wives are passing away, his kids are missing and going back and forward. It's getting tough. And it's a hard road to live when you're living by God's standard and not by yours. And I only say that it's because his ways are not our ways. So where we want to find comfort and where we want to find peace and security and all these things that the world tells us, God's like, yeah, I don't move like that, and I don't do that stuff. Even the Messiah, the God's only son, came to the earth. Where does he lay his head? He's mocked by his own people. His brothers don't believe him. God's like, I didn't come to give you a primrose path. It's gonna be life, but I bet you anything, it's the best version of it. I bet you anything, I know what's best. And so for Jacob to kind of have to realize that as like his way's best, and it don't make a lot of sense. And I'm ready to go. This is a lot for a human being to deal with. To be responsible for the whole quote unquote nation of Israel, he is literally the name of it. He's the representation of all the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Moses. All these stiff necked people, what do you want me to do, God? He's like, should we just kill them all and get out of here? No, let's keep them around and figure it out. I don't know. You have to bear that burden on your shoulders is really tough. And so what I love about Jacob, he pulls a really cool card here in what is verse 5. These are long verses, but at the end of verse 5, top of the second page, you're right there. It says, and he blessed the creator. He
Mhm.
I'm a little bit selfish, I guess, maybe. If I'm sitting there and all my 12 kids are eating and everything kind of worked out, I'm like, whoo, I did it. I made it. I went A to B to C. Man, look at Jacob go. I didn't even know if I was gonna get here. All my vision stuff was crazy. And then now I'm here. First thing he does is give credit to the Father. He says, don't look at me, don't give any accolades to me, even though I was the one walking this story out, even though I was the one doing all this hard stuff and dealing with the emotions and the feelings and etc. Blessed be the creator of all things, because it's him that did this. It's him who gets the glory. And none of this happens unless he's doing his job. And then turn around, poor old broken slave Joseph is like, hey guys, I have a gift for you. A whole land and nation and the best of it. You're like, wait, you're giving us a gift? No, we tried to kill you. We should be giving you gifts. So you feed us, you give us a nation and a land, and you give us somewhere to go. Isn't God good? Because none of this is not the path of humanity. This is no regular human beings would do any of this stuff like that. This would not play out that way with just humans involved. This happens because God was involved, and so Jacob recognized it and blessed the Creator.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, man. Because yeah, it would be really easy to go, okay, all right, I'm seeing the fruition of all this stuff. So I did what I was supposed to do. I did the thing or whatever. But I think there's something that we kind of miss in this, like all of the blessing stuff that happens from Abraham on down. The blessing is always, I will bless your seed. I will bless your seed. I will bless your seed. They will become a great nation, right? And all the stuff that happens to me is kind of just wherever it plays out how it needs to play out so that the Father's will can be accomplished. My job is to do what I'm supposed to do, but my seed will be blessed.
Right.
And I think all that comes together a lot. Like even with the story that you told, Joe, about your dad and all that, man, is, we put a lot of emphasis on the way our children turn out, right? Because it's a reflection of who we are. We can look at our lives in the past and say, okay, I did a lot of messing up, but I got it right through them because they're on the right track. So yeah, we want the best for our children. We want better than for ourselves for our children. And I think when a father can look at his son and see you and your brother and how well y'all are doing and the men that y'all become, oh my gosh, dude, that would, of course, that's going to bring new life to him. It's like, it's all, maybe, I mean, I don't know, forgive me. And I don't know all the story, but I mean, maybe the past years have been pretty hard on him, dwelling on him and all of his mess ups. And then you guys coming around, it's like, that's because of me. I did that. Even if there wasn't a lot of involvement, it's because of him, right? So, hey, at least I have that to go on. I don't know. I think there's a lot that we can draw from our children, and we want to see them blessed. So, and I think that's the way y'all's people is always going to think. It's not about how can I be blessed. It's how can my children be blessed.
Yeah, got to leave a legacy.
So anyway, very cool.
You can't visit your own gravesite and be thankful. You're the one in it.
I'm just waiting for when I pass away, people want to come by and do some soaking.
Lord have mercy.
That was Big Joe's grave, isn't it? Let's go do some grave soaking. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
My skeletal frame couldn't handle that much mantle.
Yeah. They're going to hear a voice from the other side going, "You asked for it." Here it comes.
All right, so I want to point something out here that's pretty cool here. Verse 6, it says, "And Joseph had given to his father and to his brothers as a gift the right of dwelling in the land of Goshen and in Ramesses and in all the region round about which he ruled over before Pharaoh." Okay, so this is a region that Pharaoh rules over. Joseph is in charge of it as far as the governmental aspect of all of that stuff. But there's a phrase that's used here that I think needs to be pointed out. Given, and Joseph had given to his father and to his brothers as a gift the right, not the privilege. This is not the ability to use. This is ownership. This is yours now. I thought that was really cool. I mean, maybe it's just one of those lookover phrases, but I think that's important to see here, and it might be important later on down the road. But this is a land that is being given to them that they didn't have to do anything for, that is flourishing. It's the goodliest. It's the best land, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're coming into an area that they didn't do anything for, and they've got the best place. It's already there.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, where do we see that happen again and again and again, and going to be happening again, right? Going to prepare a place. How cool is that?
Do you think this, Kyle, too, with that passage? Go back to 6 for me, please. So there it says, he says, and just what you just said, it says, Joseph had given to his father and to his brothers a gift, the right of dwelling in the land of Goshen. So it almost feels like if anyone had any questions living in Egypt, if anyone, these are outsiders coming into our place, that this is literally almost a decree to all of
Oh, it
Egypt.
absolutely is.
By the way, that family, don't mess with them, don't touch them. They're part of this now. They're part of us. Matter of fact, I, Joseph, who is second in command of all that you see, I'm giving them the right. I love to me that phrase right. It's very powerful. That's almost a political statement on top of everything else. So that if there's any question whatsoever, if anything, if someone goes, hey, who are those guys, those sheep herders who moved in over there in Goshen? Oh, don't worry about that. Joseph, that's his family. He gave them the right to be there. That squashes everything across the board. They just didn't show up and Joseph's like, yeah, just go over there. Don't worry about it. No, it's like he makes a proclamation of, by the way, legally, this is yours. You have the right to be here. No one can come in and claim anything. No one can come in and say, hey, those are, like when Jacob had issues with the wells, no one can come in there and go, hey, those are my wells that you dug. Oh, okay, cool. Here, take that. But anyway, no one can come in and take any squatter rights, nothing. Joseph's declaring with the signet ring probably on the seal, they have the right to be there. I put them there. So nobody's going to remove them or have anything to do with them in any bad way whatsoever. So I just kind of want to drive that home a little bit more with the way that's written. It says, I give you the right to be here.
I see kingdom all over this, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We even have examples of it in our society today, like the way our nation is. We have rights, we have privileges. It is very, very difficult to get a right removed. Like, you got to mess up really, really bad to have a right removed from you.
Things got to be going left.
Correct. You got to do some really, 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 really bad to have a right removed from you. And even then, it's very difficult. There's a long, drawn out process. So, yeah, but a privilege is one of those things they can snatch up at any time, right? So I think that's important to point out. So, but yeah, I see kingdom all over this. And Jonathan, I know you're itching. I know you got something in here.
He's itching, but not for this. He's just got like
just fleas.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Oh goodness. No, so I just wanted to add to you guys' point. Obviously, that right and all that stuff is very interesting, and I think it's very telling. Like with Abraham and when he bought the double cave and all of that, there's certain things where when God moves, He says, "You do this way because this is the way that I want you to do it." There's no question marks. There's no, like I said, there's not going to be any legal backlash or any like contention later. This is where you're supposed to be, and we know they were there for 400 some years, whether it was all slavery or not. They were there for a while. This wasn't, oh, you're just here for a temporary hotel visit, or you're just visiting for a week. They were there. They lived there so long, generations lived and died, and then more of them lived and died until they didn't know who Joseph was anymore. That new Pharaoh was like, oh, who's Joseph? That's how long they were there. That the memory of the 7-year famine was gone. Speaking of the 7-year famine, They didn't just get land. That would have been good enough. Hey, here's some fertile land. Figure that junk out. You guys are here. You got goats. Eat the goats. I don't know. Get some milk. Make some cheese. Y'all got to figure it out. No, it says that Joseph then fed them and nourished them for 7 years during the famine. So the local population, the actual citizens of Egypt, who are the ones who are supposed to be benefactors of all this storage of grain, we bought the stuff. We went to the farms. We put it in the storehouses. This is our food. Joseph's now feeding a whole additional nation of people. So obviously, God set it up in a way to be prepared and ready to provide for people before he knew the people were going to be there. Joseph had enough storage to take care of everybody who he's supposed to take care of, plus a whole additional people group. And God knew all that in advance. God's math was totally different than Egypt math. So then now in Egypt math, I'm sure there was a couple people grumbling like, why is he giving them all our food? Yet no one starved. Everybody was taken care of during the entirety of the famine by efforts that were done in advance. I just love that. It was way more than just a right. He didn't just say, all right, you're allowed to be here. Good enough. No, I'm going to take care of you every single day. You will have food on your plate every single day. Remember, he talked about going into the land of Israel, lands you didn't plant, houses you didn't build, roads you didn't. He's like, hey, this food is just food. Where do you get it from? Because I said so. What about the manna? Because I said so. Food will be on your plate because humans need sustenance, and that's my job. I'm a big God with big plans, and don't ever second guess whether your food's coming from. You just serve me the which and how you're supposed to. All things will be added to you.
You know, I do have a question for you, Jonathan. Was that math of Egypt? You think that might have been close to Common Core math or something like that?
No, it wasn't the squares. It was pyramids.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, my bad. I do want to say, so I know Kyle's got his brain. I can see gears turning there. Real quick, though, I'm glad you brought up Abraham because I was about to when I was speaking earlier.
I know.
So, again, you see the wisdom that's been, I think, inherited and passed down through the family is that, you know, with Abraham, he's like, no, I can't take the land because unless you say that you bless me, I can't take the land unless you all of a sudden go, hey, there's no legal documents here. There's nothing, you know. The thing with Abraham and with buying of the land was like, I now have the right to this land forever. I have the deed. I paid for it. No one can say they blessed me. No one can say other than the Father. Oh, it's 400, whatever it was, shekels or pieces of silver, whatever it was. Hey, and I'm sure the guy threw out a number. He's like, there's no way he's gonna pay this. Abraham's like, watch me. So he dropped it. But here's the thing: when you go back to the Genesis account of all this taking place, what if you remember? It got so bad with the people coming to buy the grain that everyone started selling their land.
Yep.
Everyone started, I mean, literally down to like they sold everything from the animals they had to their land. They sold everything they had, and then the kids might have been next on the chopping block. I don't know. But that's a little Dave Ramsey thing there. When you're getting out of debt, Dave Ramsey says, sell everything you got. And he says, sell so much the kids think they're next. But anyway, but with all that taking place, there is a good favor happening here because while everyone else is literally selling their land and Joseph's, hey, you know, exchanging the money for the food, the animals, the land, his people. It doesn't say anywhere in here or anywhere in the Genesis account that dad had to cough up the coin. He's like, no. No. You have the right to that land. Though everybody else is having to sell their land to eat, you don't have to do any of that. Dad, don't sweat it. I'm going to feed you and my brothers and their families, and everyone's going to be fine, but there won't be anything asked from you in return. Except about 380 years from now, you're going to be asked to make bricks without straw. That's a whole different story. So we'll wait till we get to there.
Man, that was a better transition than we could have ever planned for. Because let me tell you where my brain was going.
Oh boy, here it comes.
So this is land in Egypt and Goshen, right? That is their land.
Yes.
Was.
Okay. Now I know. Well, hold on. Okay. I know we have
your land. This land is my land.
We have. I know everybody when they think about the children of Israel going into slavery, everybody thinks about the Charleston Heston Charlton Heston, 400 years of, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's not how that played out.
Right.
It
Right.
was 400 years split up between Canaan and Egypt, first
Yeah,
of all.
that's correct.
Secondly, when in Egypt, they were not slaves like, using straw to make bricks slaves. They worked themselves into that. It's kind of one of those situations that, well, our nation has been in for a while, right? Slowly giving up your rights in place for something else until eventually you become a slave, a servant. I don't know. The thought just popped in my head. I wonder what area they were in. Was this their land that has been their land since this time and then gave it up?
You mean like from like off the boat with like Japheth and Ham and Shem, like because I think that's in Shem's territory, so that would have been already pre-given. I don't know what the best word is there.
Well, what I'm saying is that
Pre-titled.
when the Israelites were in slavery in Egypt, they weren't always they didn't just go to Egypt as slaves,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
So when they went there, I'm referring to the Moses time frame, is that the land that they started out in when they got there? Is this land that we just read about that was just given to them that they
I think so.
that they have the right to? I think that's really neat. This is their right and they give it up.
Well, everything had to happen for a reason. So if everything been hunky dory, nobody would have ever left Egypt, and we would never have the rest of the Torah to read.
Right.
True.
Yeah, it is interesting though to see the front end of it being so good and shiny glory moment, and then to see the fallout toward the end. But even on the end, they're walking out with gold and everything they ever needed, all the stuff for the tabernacle. So God, even then on the way out, when they're in a bad situation, God's like, I still 100% provide. I still 100% take care of you. And every step along the way, you get a pillar of fire, a pillar of smoke, you get manna, you get quail. Oops, you get all kind of stuff. And you never got to guess. Water, oh, you're in a desert? Okay, well, water can be there too. Oh, you're now where there's 0% water ever? Oh, water can be there too. All good. As if I tell you to go, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Very neat. Very neat. All right. If anybody out there in the social media land has any input whatsoever on any of that, I would be interested to know if there's any distinction made about where they were when the Israelites went into Egypt during the whole, 400 years of slavery type thing. If you know where they were, like the geographical area, I think that'd be interesting to look at.
Yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Kyle, I don't know if you and Jonathan remember that one video we watched a while back. I want to say that it said really the oppression of them was probably around like maybe 70 years out of that whole time. So it wasn't, again, there's this picture painted of oppression for 400 something years. No,
Right.
Just reading this story here, right off the rip, this is a good thing.
Yeah, at least 7 years were good.
Yeah. Well, through the life of Joseph, it doesn't pick up until we get into Genesis, and it says, and then a Pharaoh who didn't know Joseph comes along, and he's like, I'm the new captain in town. I'm the new sheriff in town, and I don't know who that was, but let me tell you how it's going to be.
Right.
And so, but again, that's all a part of God's plan. He had to make his people so uncomfortable, so miserable, so that when that time came, after all the plagues, they're like, get us out of here now.
Right.
Yep.
Move.
Milk and honey, here we come.
And I know we need to get into this next section, but I just wanted to bring this up. I just thought this was awesome here. As much as sufficed them for the 7 years.
Yeah. Eat up, boys.
Famine. So they didn't have a feast. They had as much as they wanted that sufficed them for the entire 7 years of the famine.
Right.
Ain't got good.
No rationing over there.
And that's according to all of their families.
Yep.
That's good stuff.
That was the origination of the blessed and highly favored.
Facts. All right, boys, we're ready to get into it?
Yep.
All right. There's only 16 verses in this one, so you going to read 8 through 16?
Yes.
Awesome. Let's get it.
All right, guys, let's pick it up in 8. It says, the land of Egypt suffered by reason of the famine, and Joseph acquired all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh in return for food, and he got possession of the people and their cattle and everything for Pharaoh. And the years of the famine were accomplished, and Joseph gave to the people in the land seed and food that they might sow in the land the 8th year, for the river had overflowed all the land of Egypt. For in the 7 years of the famine, it had not overflowed and had irrigated only a few places on the banks of the river. But now it overflowed, and the Egyptians sowed the land, and it bore much corn that year. And this was the first year of the 4th week of the 45th Jubilee. And Joseph took of the corn of the harvest the 5th part for the king, and left 4 parts for them for food and for seed. And Joseph made it an ordinance for the land of Egypt until this day. And Israel lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, and all the days which he lived were 3 jubilees, 147 years. And he died in the 4th year of the 5th week of the 45th Jubilee. And Israel blessed his sons before he died, and told them everything that would befall them in the land of Egypt. And he made known to them that what would come upon them in the last days. And he blessed them and gave to Joseph 2 portions in the land. And he slept with his fathers, and he was buried in the double cave in the land of Canaan, near Abraham his father, in the grave which he dug for himself in the double cave in the land of Hebron. And he gave all his books and the books of his fathers to Levi his son, that he might preserve them and renew them for his children until this day. Yeah, boy, that one got me when I read it the first time. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Getting the hour just for this section.
I know, right? I thought verse 9, the fact that in years of famine or whatever, Joseph is given to the people seed and food. Not just giving them food. He's saying, like, look, you're gonna need to continue this. We're not just giving you a handout, right?
Mhm.
Like this isn't just for now. The food will get you by today. Seed gets you by tomorrow. So
Right.
store it, wait for it, hold it. It's coming. And sure enough, it come with a flood.
Yeah,
How
and I
fitting.
love that it was when it talks about the famine. In my head, I don't know why. Like like Kyle, I'm very visual at times in my own brain, but I'm thinking like just vast wasteland, deserts, just nothing going on. They were like, oh no, there was still some river, and it irrigated only a few places. I was like, oh, that kind of changed my mentality a little bit. So there was a little bit, but there was not a lot of it. There was not enough to do anything worth really, writing home about. Okay, yeah, we have 17 loaves of bread. Yeah, we need 58 billion. Okay, well, there were 17, but in my head, it was just scorched earth, nothing. So, I guess that helps to validate the story. It makes it more validity to the story, is that there's not this isn't science fiction. This isn't, some kind of weird, we're on Mars all of a sudden and nothing can grow. They're like, hey, we could grow something. It just wasn't enough. Somebody probably had a house plant. Somebody probably had a little small tomato garden where they had 10, but there was a famine for the land, for the whole nation. And then, obviously Joseph ended up feeding the known world at the time. So whatever it wasn't just isolated in Egypt. It was all the way up to Israel. It was all the way out in Canaan. It was, this is widespread. So when God's moving, even though he's dealing with a specific people for a specific reason, and the whole world was affected, and it was all to move and groove things the way they needed to go. Is that ratchet it up a little bit? No, you're not going to escape over to Ireland. No, 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 you're not going to Turkey. You're going to Egypt because I said so. That's where the food is at. That's where your brother's at. This is where you're going. And then once everything kind of works itself out, we see the back end of it.
Yeah, the irrigation, you irrigation of a river, you if you watch the way a river flows, you got your main river that flows from wherever it is out to the ocean or whatever, and or to a main body of water. And you'll have little branches that go off from it, right? And so those areas stay hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
When the water drops, it no longer is able to go down those areas. So all those areas away from the main body of water are not getting what they're supposed to be getting. So everywhere else except along that river bank is not doing too good.
Right.
And I would assume it probably was pretty low too. I mean, there was a famine in the land. I don't remember reading anything in here about, but there was plenty of fish for them to eat. You know, so
Right.
so I would assume that it was probably pretty low and pretty bad off for the water situation too. So which is interesting because we don't really hear a lot about that, but there is water, but it probably isn't a bountiful water that they can use the way that they would normally use it. Right. So we're in we have bountiful light available to us now through electricity, right? We can have light anywhere we want to, any time of day. That our equivalent today would be taking all that away, and now we're using candles. That's probably kind of where they were at with their water situation.
I wonder if there was an Elijah somewhere that was praying for 7 years of no rain, or 3.5 years of no rain. You're like, wait, what's going on?
Think of how long in our modern days. How long has the land been absolutely dry with no rain? They're dependent in the Middle East right now. Everybody for the last couple of years, everybody been talking about the Euphrates River drying up, as if it's prophetic. Well, there's some people upstream that's withholding the water, that's not allowing the water to come down, so that's why it's drying up. There's plenty of water up there. They're just not allowing it to come down. So and it's revealing a lot of stuff under there. So anyway,
you mean all the angels that are trapped underneath there to make all those weird noises they're recording?
Lord have mercy.
I want to read this for us real quick about the Nile. It's not called the Nile in here. This is called the river. But it says the Nile River begins in Lake Victoria, the second largest freshwater lake in the world, near Jinja, Uganda. The Kangara River, which originates in the highlands of Burundi, is considered the furthest headstream of the Nile. So then it says the White Nile and the Blue Nile meet in Khartoum, Sudan, and the Nile then flows north through the Nubian Desert and into the Mediterranean Sea in Egypt. The Nile is the longest river in the world, flowing over 4,000 miles through 11 African countries. The Nile's annual flooding and silt deposits have created rich soil along the river banks and in the Nile River Delta, which is a major agricultural area. The Nile was critical to the development of ancient Egypt and the Sudanese kingdom. So my thought on this, when we were reading this, where it talks about, sometimes we get the language of the world, when, the famine hits, like the known world. But, you think about if the Nile is here not flowing, it's not overflowing the banks, it's not bringing in that rich silt that's used for growing crops. If all this is happening here, that meant way up the line and way down the line, everybody's getting it. So when it talks about in the known world at the time, I don't know what the population would have been or who lived, in all these places. But, we know that from history, at least the history that we've been told, that Egypt was the spot. That was one of the major hubs for everything. And so when you see this, I think a little bit of this visual, like I'm like you guys, well, most men are visual. So my visual on this it wasn't just a local thing. It wasn't just something that kind of went maybe 25 miles outside of Egypt, into other surrounding areas. This was something that really did affect a very large portion of the known world back then. So when it says all these people were coming from all over, to gather grain, it's like, I'm sure the word spread as quick as it could back then. Hey, go to Egypt, they got plenty. Matter of fact, go to Egypt, they got plenty. It's like, so this, I wish we had numbers, but Jonathan, you being a numbers guy, I couldn't imagine right now the amount of wealth that was coming into Egypt at that point. Because when people are hungry, brother, they go, hey, what is it? Here you go. Here's the money. Here's the money. Oh, we're out of money. Here's all my cattle. You're out of cattle. Here's all my land. So when it says that he made Pharaoh very wealthy, I think those numbers in today's numbers, we're talking about billions of dollars.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Easily billions of dollars.
it,
That's
it
my
was.
opinion.
It was either. It's likely that it was millions, if not hundreds of millions of people that was being provided for.
$100 billion.
100 billion. Yeah.
Well, and what we see there too is, again, everything's being orchestrated behind the scenes by the Father. God's making Egypt a wealthy nation, and who ultimately ends up benefiting from all this wealth? His people. They get the land, and then when they leave, who gets to leave with all the stuff? His people.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole time, there's like this behind the scenes story. There's this red thread, this string that's being carried through that, no one's really seeing the end story 400 years later. They're seeing the today story. Hey, we need to eat today. They're not realizing, oh, when we leave, we're going to leave with a mixed multitude. Like Joe said, where'd all these millions of people, thousands of people come from? Maybe that was a part of this mixed multitude. God was already preparing these people to leave, and that's why there was 6 million plus however many millions of people who left with Moses. Where do they all come from? Hey, there was some famine. We all centralized in Egypt. And he's like, cool, now that I got all the people that I want, let's go ahead and head out. I went back and recollected, I regrouped, got all the people, all the brothers back together, taught them all the good word, brought some Torah life into them. All right, now let's roll out. It's just such a crazy story. And Joe, to your point about how long the Nile is, over 4,000 miles, you said, in America. So all of us who understand American distance, from LA to New York is like 2,400 miles. So this is LA to New York like twice. It's just
Right.
this one river, and then there's still a whole rest of Africa. So this is a big deal. And what else is a big deal is then when you look in verse 11, it says, and this was the first year of the fourth week of the 45th Jubilee. So I was like, at first, like, oh, okay, it's just another mile marker. This was the first year of the new Jubilee. So this whole 7 years of famine or whatever, this was the year of restoration, the year of release. This is the reset when all the debts are paid, when everything goes back to its original owners. And isn't that exactly what's happening here? They had their last 7 years, which would be, the Hebrew word is a Shemitah year. So they had a 7 year yuck period where everything was bad, and but then they had a resolution to that 7 year. But that resolution wasn't just a normal 7 year; it was also the Jubilee year, where all things go back, all debts are paid, and then so the rivers come back, the corn and the wheat, whatever it is they were growing, they all had their seeds. Everybody had like it was like a when you watch those old school cartoons where spring comes back and all the flowers come back up and the world comes back to life, it was like God was really using these timetables. These aren't just arbitrary numbers. This wasn't like, oh, it was the 13th day of some random month or whatever. It was the first year right after the Jubilee started. This was when we got to do a reset. And I love that reset kind of ideal behind the scene. Yes, we know that the famine was over, but then to see those years kind of play out as well. Like I said, there's like a story on a story on a story, and God's orchestrating all of it.
Mm-hmm. Another neat point too, just kind of switching gears, kind of going back to the flood stuff we were talking about. I think this is kind of neat. Is if you haven't had rain in a while and the ground dries up, and then you get a rain, that wouldn't do you any good. If they took that dry ground and went out there and planted seed, and then they got a good rain, all that's going to do is wash away stuff because the ground is hard. But by flooding the land, it hydrates the soil now, breaks everything up, hydrate it, all that kind of stuff. Now you can plant in it. So it's just neat. Father knows what he's doing in all of this, in every aspect of it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. How about this? In verse 14, who are we talking about? Who's doing this right here? Israel. And Israel blessed his sons before he died and told them everything that would befall them. Da, 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 da. He blesses them, gives them their portions or whatever. And he gives Joseph 2 portions in the land. He's giving Joseph 2 portions of what Joseph just handed over to him. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like Joseph could have said, "Yeah, man, I got my own stuff. I don't need. I got plenty. Not worried about that." No, This was given to Israel, and Israel had the ability to bless his children
Mhm.
accordingly to Yah's blessing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Do you,
really, really cool.
Cal, do you think the two portions, why I give him two portions, was because of Ephraim and the Manassas? They could have given him a double portion because of the two boys, because we do get the double or the blessing, the crossing of the hands, the blessing of the younger over the older. But I wonder if that had anything to do with that at all.
I don't know.
I mean, I would suggest that he knew what he was doing, because
Nah.
in in 14 it does, like Kyle was reading there. It does say that before he died, he told them everything that would befall them.
Mm-hmm.
How would he know that? This is he's still. I mean, we've been
Vision.
multiple chapters now going back to his vision at Bethel.
Mm-hmm.
This was a big deal, that this vision, because now he's like, I needed it, and now you're gonna need it, and I'm gonna let you know. Now the sad part is, you know, generations down the road, of course, like normal, you don't keep the ways and do the things you're supposed to.
Mhm.
Those things go away. But there was a time where all of Israel that existed at the time knew what was going to happen and knew what it was going to look like. They needed to stand firm and stay strong. You know, it didn't work out that way. The human experience generally takes over the, the heavenly ordination of how we're supposed to do things. But he lets them know. And then I think that double portion is like one of those. Joseph did so much for them and for the brothers and the dad and all that. And I think Jacob's like, I don't know anything. Like when you really look at what Jacob had, he should have been quote unquote Israel. He has the people, which I think that's the more important. That's the more important Israel. But when you look at um, what was going on in Egypt, Jacob has lost everything. He has no homeland. He has not, all his possessions are still back in Canaan, Egypt, Israel, back somewhere else. So what is he able to give back to Joseph, his son? Our father's supposed to give good gifts. Well, all Jacob has is what was given to him. He's like, well, I'll give a portion of what was given to me back to you. And I love that sentiment is we don't have to be rich. We don't have to have a lot of stuff. We just have to be good stewards of what we've been given. And Jacob was given a lot. And he says, I'm going to be a good steward of it. And son, you were awesome. You took care of us. This is a way for me to take care of you.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very
my only last point on that is the reason why I kept leaning towards it also being maybe having something to do with his two sons is because they're actually recorded as part of the tribe of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get any of Reuben or anybody else's descendants, their sons, being actually a part of. They're like included within that 12. So that's why I think that double portion, there's something a little bit. And of course, Israel knew what he was doing. Jacob knew what he was doing.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I think that double portion there is something to do. It's something to go more along because we hear about Ephraim and Manassas, not only from the time, just given the namesake of who they are and all that later on, but you also have them as part of the tribe of the house of Israel. So I think there's something probably a little bit there, but I mentioned to get to what verse 16, Kyle. Come on, man, let's do it.
Well, last thing, I think you're onto something
No,
there,
man.
Joe. I think you're onto something there in 14. I think that this is worded very specifically for a reason. Told them everything that would befall them in the land of Egypt, and he made known to them what would come upon them in the last days.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then it says, and blessed them and gave to Joseph 2 portions in the land. So I don't know. I think that order is there for a reason. I think you may be onto something. I don't know exactly all that there is in there, but I think there's still a lot of meat on those bones there.
Oh, yeah.
And all right. Why don't you get us going, Joe? Because I know you're itching for this. I was all over it too. I already got it highlighted.
Oh, yeah.
About the books.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and again, this isn't a slam on anybody, but we've always been told that, Brother Judah is the keeper of the Torah. He's the one this has all been passed down through.
Preserved it,
and all that stuff. But here we have something interesting here. So when we read that and go back to the verse 16 for McCall. And so this is Israel who's in his right mind. And by the way, Jonathan, I want to say this earlier about that was the fact that, or both of you and everybody's listening, what's cool about when he tells them real quick about what's going to happen in the last days, I guarantee you he's saying it with a lot more confidence now.
Mm-hmm.
It's because when we read earlier, he's kind of like, "Oh, thank you. I didn't miss the train. I didn't screw up. This is all part of the plan. So when he gets to that point of blessing his boys, he's speaking in confidence. That's why it says Israel. Remember, this is the spiritual part of this. It says in Israel, he spoke with full confidence, going, by the way, boys, here's your blessing. There's a double portion. This is what's gonna happen now, and this is what's gonna happen later. And he's probably like, and as a matter of fact, I know this to be true.
Mhm.
Mic drop. I'm out. Deuces. Close my eyes for me.
Yeah. But so going back to Levi, so we see this and we read this in here, and it makes perfect sense because for me, when I first read this, what was coming to my mind, guys, was the fact that when we go through the history of the priesthood, we go all the way through to the time of David, King David. We go to the time of the Zadokite priesthood. It will be forever in the house of Yah. We read in history where they were usurped of their authority, usurped of their who they were, and the calling on their lives, and everything is literally taken from them, and they're pushed out back to Egypt. We have history showing us those guys were pushed back out to Egypt, and so they're literally taken away from them everything. And so when I'm reading this, going, this was supposed to have been Levi's descendants. This is instructed to them from Israel, from God, through Israel, to say, hey, by the way, I need you to, all this stuff, the writings, all this, I'm leaving in your hands. I'm not leaving it to anybody else. It's left in your hands because I already know the role you're supposed to play. Judah's going to be king. You're going to be priest. As priest, you're supposed to instruct the people of the proper ways, of my ways, of Yahuwah's ways. And this is your lot in life. This is the lane that you're supposed to stay in. And unfortunately, they get kicked out of the lane down the road. And as Paul Harvey would say, and the rest is, it's the rest of the story, the rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have this blending and mixing, and we got all kinds of weird stuff from there on out. And anyway, go ahead. You guys go take it from there with what you got.
You said a lot there. I mean, that's pretty spot on. We're told who is supposed to be in charge of doing this, and then we have usurpation.
Sure. I've been messing words up all day, so you're good.
I'm going to leave it in there so everybody can see that you actually do make mistakes too.
I like it.
The everything being usurped, then being moved out, that's a big deal because there's so many people that look to Judah as being the ones to preserve everything.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that the Jews did. No, they didn't. Matter of fact, they made a lot of modifications, made a lot of changes in a lot of ways. Yeshua was quite upset about all that stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, I think this is pretty profound. It's pretty important to really look at this and really, if we can look at the scripture for what it says, and we can take ourselves out of it and what our beliefs, and just breathe and relax and realize this is not an attack on any kind of individual, any group of people, that this is the way it was supposed to be, and somebody decided to do it a different way. Which, I mean, come on. Israel's got a pretty good history of doing that, messing up Yah's ways, right? So it's not beyond Judah, or what now is called the Jews, to have done some things that they wasn't supposed to do. It's okay. We still have preservation of word, and the Father keeps opening our eyes to see more and more every day, and it's an amazing thing. So don't get so caught up in just like for those who have come out of modern Christianity, churchianity, let's just call it churchianity, and realize that there's more to Yah's word that we are to adhere to, we are supposed to do, to be walking in his ways, that narrow path. Maybe just because you don't put a Christmas tree up and you don't put eggs in a basket, maybe there's a little more to it than that.
Mhm.
You know, you still got something to
Mhm.
learn. You're not on the right team just because you don't do those two things. And
Right.
just because you want to, you know, use a couple of Hebrew words here and there, it doesn't change the fact that Yah started something in you. He opened your eyes, let you see some things.
Mm-hmm.
Let him continue that process. Don't shut off. Don't build that wall and say, okay, I got it from here. I'll just go
Yep.
watch these guys.
Yep. Well, Kyle, real quick, there's leaven on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, came out of Christianity, jumped onto this side of the pond, and you thought everything was good and good to go. Then you realize that as Yah is preparing us, He is walking with us, He is revealing to us. By the way, Brother Judah's got some leaven too. By the way, it's the same leaven, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that was there at the time of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
The Pharisee system did not die. It is alive and well. It's just under the guise of what they call Judaism. Again, not attacking people. I'm not attacking we're not attacking anybody. It's just the fact that the system of Christianity and the system of Judaism both have their downfalls. They both have the leaven that needs to come out, period.
Yep.
And do we have all the answers? No, we don't have. Okay,
He
if
does.
we did, be different. But
Right.
but our Heavenly Father's does. And here's the deal. This is the thing. Our prayer should be that the Father would grant His eyes to see, a heart to receive what the Spirit is saying saying to all of us. Because at the end of the day, if it's not Holy Spirit led, then it's of the flesh. That's just bottom line.
Yep.
And the flesh is going to be corrupt. The flesh is going to do whatever the flesh wants to do.
Yep.
It's not going to be a good thing. And when it's all said and done, so when we get to passages like this, and you realize, well, what happened? Well, what happened was Levi, his descendants were literally kicked out of the way. And so when that happens, then you have someone else who's going to quote unquote lead the way. And I'm not saying it's all been bad, but again, there's definitely some leaven in there that needs to come out on both sides. And real quick, I just wanted to, I don't know if Kyle, if you can pull it up on yours. I think you have it that bottom where it says Deuteronomy 31. Scroll down. Yep, that one right there.
Okay.
It says, so it was when Moshe had completed writing the words of this law in a book, when they were finished, that Moses commanded the Levites who bore the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, saying, take this book of the law and put it beside the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, your Elohim, that it may be there as a witness against.
Mm-hmm.
Deuteronomy 31, 24 through 26.
Not a witness for you.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But you see here, and some people say, well, I don't believe in Jubilees. Well, here's the Torah. So you're going to dismiss both of them? I mean, let me know how that works out for you. But anyway, here's from Deuteronomy, part of our Torah. So
Yep.
saying the same exact thing. Same thing.
Mm-mm-mm.
Well, and Joe, to your point there, that verse there in Deuteronomy says a book, where in 16 it says he gave all his books. All
Yep.
is more than a. A is singular, all is all. So books versus book. So whatever is that Israel, Jacob had was multiple, was books, and was all. He didn't hold any back. He didn't keep anything to himself. He didn't hide anything. There was no secret, esoteric information. It was, here's everything the Father's ever given to me through the patriarchs prior to me. Here it is for you guys. Walk well with this information and go forward with it. Where when we see Moses, it's a book. Oh, that's interesting. So there was some details in there. And then it says it did go to Levi, and it was for him to preserve them and renew them until this day. Now, who's writing this? Moses. Moses in Deuteronomy, as Joe read, and Moses in this, writing this, are completely congruent until the day that I'm telling you the thing that I'm telling you right now, This is supposed to be continued until this day.
Right.
So it didn't say until, well, now that we're at Mount Sinai, this brand new thing that never was here and just showed up. No, it's that stuff until now. And then the stuff that's till now, put that on the side as a testimony against you, as a witness against you. What are we talking about? He's like, this is not like a new book. This is chapter 2. Turn the page. Yes, you got out of Egypt. Cool. Now here's how you do the stuff now that you left. Okay, yeah, there was no tabernacle in Goshen. Go build a tabernacle. You didn't have these instructions before. Now you do. I gave you the Jubilees to understand your history of where you came from and how you got here. Now I'm going to give you a few more instructions of how to walk forward and how to walk forward correctly under the guidance and the instructions of the Most High. And what example are we to follow? Follow Jacob's examples. What did he do? Multiple things that he did that we should follow. He said that he blessed Yahuwah, his Elohim, forever and ever, and blessed be his name. This is not just any kind of regular name. We don't need to just call him that dude upstairs and, kind of do those things that we all too often do, the big man in the sky. He says, no. Blessed be his name. It's a specific thing, whether it be, however you define and however you to be understand it, just don't make light of it. And then he goes on and be based on all the good things that's happened in his life, based on all the things and even all the worries and the struggles and the doubts. At the end of the day, he blessed the creator of all things. So we just let's have a heart like Jacob. Let's have a mentality like Jacob to good, bad, or indifferent. All things work together for the glory of God.
Amen. And with that, we will see you next time for chapter 46 in the book of Jubilees. God bless.
Ciao.
Shalom.